yeah, who was putting in like 50 hours a week and then showing up to class, that one day I was going to be talking to anyone, I think he would have just put his head back and laughed for a week. Our camera person?
I wanted to ask, what do you love most about writing, and what do you hate most about writing?
Ooh, tough question. You know these things. It's like asking, what do you love most about whoever you're fucking dating? Yeah? Like, that shit changes. And what you hate most changes too, depending on your fight. Yeah? So, look, the thing is, it's hard. Every single writer, we're like a bunch of thumbprints. We're all so individualistic, you know, and we're all so particular. It's hard to generalize, yeah? I mean, I don't write compulsively. That should be something that I should tell. And for the young people, that means that, like, the average writer writes compulsively. They will write books even when they shouldn't be writing fucking books, you know? And that's not me. Yeah, and I read compulsively. What I love most about writing is reading, you know? That to me, I would rather read than do anything else. Yeah? Where I came up when I went to an MFA program, all my fellow MFAers were always looking for excuses not to read. They didn't really want to fucking read, they just wanted to do their own work. And so any class that assigned books, they would avoid, you know? Anytime that there was a chance to read, they would be like, no, I don't like to read when I'm writing. I'm like, well, all you fucking do is write. So, but I've never been an enemy of reading in that way, you know? Never. I think the best thing about it, beyond just reading, is that any time that you do work well, it inspires someone better than you to do work. And I think that if anything about my books has any merit, or any value, it's that it has encouraged a whole range of young people, and maybe not so young, to do the same damn thing and do it better. I mean, as an artist, this is not the usual point of view, but part of me does art so I can be irrelevant. I mean, that's the point. The point is, if I'm not building tools so people can do it 10 times better, then what's the use? You know? I've always thought of myself more as a bridge than some principle. Okay, we have to go, what, all the way over there? Is that it, sir? Thank you.
First I want to thank you both for for sharing your time and your readings with us. My question to Junot. First of all, I want to thank you for your sense of humor. You know,
Thank you.
you get into reading, you know, it'd be so dull and like challenging. Coming from, you know, Dominican Republic, from another country, and how much of yourself and your heritage that you pour into your writing?
Well, it's a good question. But you know, the thing is, I think all of us know, you only got so much damn self. Yeah? In other words, I feel like, you know, I probably had enough self for that first book. And then after that, I had to get like an imagination and get real smart. Because it's true. I ran out of self, guys. I had like 10 stories in my first book. By story 8, se acabó. You know? So what ends up happening as a writer is, as an artist, what you discover is, at least I discovered as myself, is that, guys, that internal stuff that you carry, the experience of yourself, the way that you extract what you've observed and what you've interpreted can only take you so far. Then you've really got to start thinking, and you've really got to start training. You know, so my second book is completely like, it has nothing to do with me. I've never met any of those people in my life. I mean, look, I'll tell you what, I have a huge family. I have childhood friends who I still know, and not a single one of my friends, unlike the first book, not a single one of my friends has said, that's me. With my second book, they're all like, who the fuck are these people? And, you know, because I ran out, bro. I ran out. I didn't have enough. Some people's family are like, provide endless material. Some of you got crazy families. You could do fucking Joyce Carol Oates on that shit. Like 20 books. But my family seemed crazy just for exactly 155 pages.
Both of your books were bananas. I love them. But I have a question about place for both of you. The desert doesn't exist. Patterson very much does. And I'm from Patterson. I can tell you, like I was like riveted by the descriptions of Patterson. Like it was nuts. And I was riveted by the descriptions of the desert. How do you do that? Like, what are the, well, you know, for writers of all levels, like what are the techniques that you employ to make these places come alive for someone who might not be from Patterson, and for all of us who are not from the desert?
You make it up. So. You know, it's interesting. I always wanted to be a fiction writer, and one of the reasons why, well, of many things I wanted to be a fiction writer, and one of the reasons why I couldn't be a fiction writer was because I always felt, and this is obviously not true, because lots of fiction writers do different things with place, but I always felt that you needed to have like a real sense of place, you know, whether it's, you know, some neighborhood in Kansas or New York or whatever, to set your characters in. Whereas like, I'm sort of, I mean, I'm from LA, but you know, I'm also from Korea, and I've also lived in New York, I've also lived in Ohio, like all these different places and stuff, and I never really felt a strong place that pulled me, you know, I could never found a setting, and that was always a problem for me. And so I always liked this idea of imagined spaces, because then you could just like kind of grab shreds from all these different inspirations. You know, it's almost like having an writing about an imagined city is like this blank canvas, and you could just like just pull in all your different resources and stuff. So for me, like inventing a city or inventing a city, a place was more liberating than anything else. You know, so that's my story.
I would just look. I would recommend that essay by, I know this is kind of bananas, but that essay, the J.R.R. Tolkien essay on fairy stories. Yeah, because it doesn't matter whether you're writing about a real place or you're writing about Middle Earth. The truth is, what Tolkien writes in this essay applies. You are creating a secondary world. And that secondary world needs to provoke in your readers secondary belief, which means that my Patterson isn't real Patterson, but I convinced you that it's real because secondary belief does that. If you draw the world enough, people begin to actually fill in the rest. And what's fascinating about this is I've always been do as little work as humanly possible to get as much effect. So I always tell them, look, I mean, I don't know, I know you're not that bored, but if you actually circle the amount of description that there is about the city of Patterson in my novel, there's actually 3 lines. But that you don't need much to provoke secondary belief. You just need to do it in an authoritative way. And there's different approaches. You can do the sort of comprehensive approach where people will write pages and pages and pages about a city, the sort of Ulysses approach. But I've always been like, if you can do a lot for less, you know? And it's amazing. You just have to mention Route 9 and people are like, oh, it's Jersey, I know this.
But it's a good essay. It's really worth reading if you're thinking about working on place. Yeah. All the way in the back, I'm sorry, and then back over here.
I guess it's sort of a silly question, but you know, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great question. If I had a superpower,
But see, I'm gonna reveal like how utterly unloved I was as a child. That's really what people are asking you. If you had a superpower, it's like, how psychotic are you? Can I at least have a suite of powers? Can I have like 2 nested together? Because honestly, I've always wanted to be like super invulnerable, yeah? And I wanted to be able to fly like really, really fast. And my dream, of course, I wanted to my dream, of course, is the people that I don't like George Bush. I would just like smack into him so fast his like limbs would fly off. It's fucked up, you know, I'm like a child. But I should be like, I want the power to heal. But instead I'm like, Donald Rumsfeld, blah, point.
We have time for just a couple more questions.
two will do.
2, how about these?